welcome back to the Mama Genius Hub podcast. I got something in store for you today. We're going to talk about parenting is about playing smarter, not harder, right? We're going to dive into those little tips on how we can really structure this. And we're going to bring Randi up to help us do that right after this. Welcome to the Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. And today we got Randi Crawford, a certified life coach, parent consultant, and speaker with a passion for helping moms navigate parenting with confidence. Remember that whole let's do it smarter, not harder. As a co-founder of public healthcare company for midlife women, she developed a deep understanding of family dynamics. Now, through Randi Crawford's coaching, she empowers parents to trust their kids, manage stress, and embrace a guilt-free approach to motherhood. Let's release all of that, all through her lens of pickleball parenting. I love that because I'm all about pickleball too. So welcome to the stage, Randi. It's so exciting to have you here today as I add you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. Good way to start the day.
Really, right? Like we were just all simpatico. She said, "Oh, take your time, release it." And I was like, just getting things go from mean to mean. So it's all about finding that zone of how to do things. And I love that you bring that to us. So what is your why behind wanting to help parents and moms navigate this?
So I'll tell you, my why very specifically is I started coaching young adult women a while ago. And after I talked to enough of these young girls, they're all in colleges across the country, what I found was a very common theme, which was a lot of communication gaps between the daughters and their moms. So a lot of people ask me, well, why do you talk about moms and not dads? Because I believe absolutely a unit is critical. However, it is the mom who will call me to say, can you work with my daughter? And if you talk to the mom, she'll give me a very different story than once I get on the call with her daughter. So I just sat back one day and I was like, you know what? There is nothing more important to me than strengthening this relationship and finding ways for moms to really empower their daughters, because it is very tough to be a young girl and a young man, quite frankly, growing up in today's digital environment. Very tough. And my passion is really towards helping the parent build that bond with their kids and helping kids be empowered to have more resilience and to be able to deal with adversity when it comes their way.
I love that so much because it is so true. It is a different dynamic when everything is in your face. I was just thinking about this. I was in a group and everyone's feeling the nature of this. You think back to England like 1,000 years ago, they didn't know any of this information. All of a sudden we're bombarded with all this stuff at our senses all the time, regardless, and this device in our hand that just, it's great, but at the same time, it's how do we navigate all that information that doesn't just cause all this stress?
It's funny because I also give talks locally. And years ago, I was talking about this, saying that the deleterious effects of social media are real. And not that there was no studies to back me up, but it wasn't like today. There's study after study, it's such an obvious, right? Come on. With the rise of social media comes the rise of mental health problems, anxiety, depression, because at the root of all of it is comparison. And moms too. We all compare our lives to our friends' lives, to what their kids are doing. And imagine a brain that is not fully developed, that is on this app, that is nearly impossible to get off of, just constantly seeing images and people doing things that they're either not invited to or look away that they feel they will never look. It's nearly an impossible standard for these kids to deal with.
I love that so much. And I love the ideas a lot, because when it comes down to it, is we're comparing our insides to someone's outside, because whatever they persona, but we don't realize that. And it's funny, my 8-year-old, one of her favorite songs when it comes on the radio is Breaking Up in the 90s. And she has no idea the like capacity of what that means, but it's so true. Now you're stuck with seeing their Instagram of who they're hanging out with now, or of the whole navigating of, oh, you should be doing that. And you have like, I don't think she even realizes it because she's only 8, but I was like, it's so true though, because you could just walk away and not think about it. Now it's in your face all the time.
Well, it travels with you. That is the difference. When we, at least certainly when I was going to school, if you had an issue with someone at school, you left school and you left the issue behind. And today you could move to another part of the country. That issue, it's going to follow you wherever you are because it's all documented online. And listen, it is a digital world and it is what our kids know, or at least the Gen Ys and the Gen Alphas, that's what they know. So as parents, we also can't ignore that's their reality. So we have to find a way to help connect with our kids and build trust with our kids and help really instill these values in our kids when they're young so that they don't believe that all their value and worth comes from, this Instagram or social media account where they're getting all sorts of likes and their phone is popping off constantly, because that's just not real. And that's what we need to teach them.
Oh, I love that so much. And we'll get back to some of the hows in just a moment. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. Again, that's mamageniushub.com. Now, I really want to dive into how we do that. I know you have something called the Pickleball Method of Parenting. And I really want to preface this before you even start, is that a lot of these are techniques or ideas. But mom, those of you listening right now, if it resonates with you, those are the things to start implementing. And it's not a matter of all these, the whole point of as we're doing these things is to figure out, what do you think using your intuition is going to work for you and your family? And I love to hear what some of Randi's ideas are for you.
Okay, well, I won't go through all 6 of them but I'll tell you very briefly, the reason this came about. You and I spoke before the show and you said, I just started playing pickleball 2 years ago. And I said, oh, I did too. And when I first walked onto a pickleball court, I thought, listen, I run every day, I work out every day. And I looked around, people were much older than me. They're all wearing body braces. And I'm like, oh, this isn't even going to be a fair fight. I'm going to take these people down. And within minutes, they're just taking me down. And I was so humbled on the court so quickly. And it immediately occurred to me, what a beautiful metaphor and a beautiful way to teach these lessons, to help parents teach these lessons to their kids, because everything that I have learned on the pickleball court has basically translated into this pickleball parenting method. And so, for instance, one specific that I think is very important in terms of guilt-free is the following. One of my methods is down the middle solves the riddle. So if you play pickleball, you know that the majority of times they can float it over, they can nail it, but however they get the ball over, if it goes down the middle, that's generally a winning shot. And why?
Yeah, the two are like, wait, that was yours. No, that was yours.
Thank you. Because people are not communicating and people aren't calling the shot. So even though the shots are so obvious, right? Like yours, mine, I got, you got. If nobody calls that middle shot, it's missed and the point is lost. And so I say down the middle solves the riddle is all about communication. And honestly, Michelle, I don't think there is a absolutely better way to help our children build this trust and the values we're talking about than having good communication. And while I know that sounds simple, well, like I communicate. No, a lot of times we don't communicate with our kids because we're just so busy doing and going. Again, we talked about your kid's schedule before this whole program started. So we're just going. We're so in the thick of it. We never stop and really listen to our kids. And that is so critical.
The word listen just comes up so much. And actually, I was on a call. I was just with my friend and talking to her, and she was talking about how an older friend of hers felt like she had to mother her, and they're both much older and stuff. And then I just stopped and paused for a minute, and I said, she's just a person who's never learned how to listen. And it doesn't matter how old you are, if you don't have those skills of how to listen to another person, you're always putting your 2 cents in. You're always trying to change the conversation, and you never let them fully finish. And I feel parents, we do that's almost like our natural reaction is, how can I solve this for my kid? How can I get in the middle of it? And I feel I'm sure you have some techniques or things that can help us make sure that we're truly listening.
Well, I love what you just said. You're taking the words out of my mouth. What I believe we do is, as parents, it's just our visceral response to listen with one ear and try and be fixing it already with the other. So it's like we're listening to fix. We're never just listening to listen. And I do want to preface everything I'm saying with I have made every single mistake. So I can tell you 1,000 times I would get into arguments with my son in high school, and he would say, Mom, just shut up and listen, or please stop talking and listen to me. And as a mom, here's what we hear. We hear, well, you're going to say the same argument. You're going to tell me the same thing, and I don't want to hear it because I've heard it 1,000 times. But have we ever really let them finish their entire thought? So that huge tip right there, it's called active listening. I learned a lot about this in the Jay Shetty course. And active listening is when you not only listen, but you are thinking about, it sounds crazy, right? But you are thinking about nothing else. You're not thinking about grocery lists. You're not thinking about the other kid you have to pick up. You're not thinking about a fight you might have had with another kid during the day. You are listening to that specific child, letting them finish their thought, and then not saying anything, then taking a deep breath like we did before the show, pausing, resetting like we need to do in pickleball, and then asking the question, do you want help or do you just want support? Because that's what we want to know from them. Are you looking for me to give you an answer? And sometimes, rarely, they are, but most of the time, they want you to listen. When I life coach, because I do tend to talk a lot, all of my friends say, what do you tell all these girls? What do you tell all them? And I say, guys, you're not going to believe this. But the majority of the time I don't talk. I just listen because it feels so good for these young people to just get something off their chest. And when they start talking, it's almost like they're solving it as they're talking, or they're seeing how ridiculous it is that they got so worked up over something, when reality is it's a much smaller issue, but in their mind it's really big. And then they try and tell their parent about it, and the parent is listening, and they're like, well, wait, this is what, no, just listen, actively listen to your kids, and you will not believe what a long way that goes.
I totally agree with you so much. And honestly, I was speaking to my youngest last night. Sorry, one second. We were in the car, and I was telling you that we did actually make it to dinner last night. I had told the story before we got in the green room about her going to swim class, and she wanted to wear shorts in 30-degree weather in Wisconsin. Long story. But anyways, we did make it to dinner. However, she started telling me about her day as I was trying to find the restaurant. And she started, it was like, and I was so like, and I knew my mind was distracted. And so when we stopped, I'm like, I want to apologize because I know you were sharing what you had to say, but I'm going to need you to repeat that because I couldn't get to the restaurant safely without and fully listen to it. Okay, Mom, I don't want to tell you more than what I told you, but I will repeat it for you. Okay. And I think that does happen, and our minds do get distracted. But I think when we're honest about it and willing to give them our full undivided attention, and then we just went, once we got seated, I just, okay, I'm here. What do you have to share with me? And she actually went further than she intended in what was going on with her. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is how we give them our full undivided attention. And we can't always do that, but we need to be clear with that and then set aside the time to do that.
Well, it's a really interesting story that you just told about. You were like, you had other things on your mind. The fact that you came back to her and said, you know what, I'm sorry, I was distracted. See, a lot of times we don't do that. And again, I'm not being judgy. I'm just saying that moment might have happened and we let it pass. But you circled back because you knew that it's all about being present. And the really cool thing about this is you could spend 3 hours with your daughter, right? But if you spend 3 hours with your daughter and you're on the phone and you're, taking work calls, she'd rather have you for 15 minutes, just like Mom and you, for 15 minutes, no phone, no distractions. So it's just interesting. Like I always say, don't confuse motion with action. It doesn't matter. Don't put a time limit to how much time you've spent with someone. It's more about the quality of the time that you spend with them and being present and listening to everything that they say. And then, like I said, at the end, if your inclination is to jump in and fix something, because listen, we're parents. We get worked up if they tell you they've been done dirty by a friend. We just want to get in there, and it's not our job. So our job is to say, thank you for sharing that with me. And Are you asking for advice, or do you just want me to listen more? And most of the time they're going to say, God, that feels good. I just want you to listen more. And they really will open up when you're not, because they perceive you as judging when you're trying to give advice instead of just listening.
Ooh, I love that. It's so true, because when you feel judged, then you shut down.
Yes.
And I never thought of it in that terms of like when you are giving the advice, or oh, all of a sudden they're like they start to shut down, and then that distracts from the relationship so much.
For sure. It's just funny. There's another book I read. I don't know if you've read it, The Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. Okay. It's a great book, and he's got those 5 love languages in there. And what's interesting is when you really take the time to learn your kids and what makes them tick, you learn why they do little things that they do. For instance, if you constantly take a phone call while you're with your kids and they get really angry about it, rather than you get angry with your child and say, listen, this is a work call, I have to take this, what they're trying to tell you is they want your time. That's what they're trying to tell you. So before you commit to, listen, let's go to the mall together, let's just spend a couple of great hours together, admit up front, listen, I want you to know I have a couple really important work calls that are going to come up, so if that's going to bug you, we can do this another day. But then you're spending that quality time together. They're getting you what they want of you. And then when you're really listening and not trying to jump in with your advice, which, listen, we're older, we're wiser, we've been there, we've done that. We do know better. That's just a fact. But we don't know better because we don't know what they want. And we think we know what they want. And yeah, it's communication it's just so intricate and delicate and valuable. It's just, to me, it's absolutely everything in the family dynamic.
I can't agree more. And I love that you said that, like, we actually don't know what they want, and how we might have fixed something might not be the way they need it fixed even. And so I really do see every time I feel like the idea of we need to be mom coaches to our kids, because we need to teach them how to solve those for themselves, because we're not there all the time. We're not at school with them. And if they can't self cope or self start to do these things for themselves, they're always running back for a solution or something, or feeling, and then that's when they get the insecure, and then social media is able to take advantage of that.
Well, that's why another one of the pieces of my method is poaching, right? Poaching is in pickleball. When one of the partners is up at the net and the return comes back and they have a great angle at that ball, and they jump in and they poach the shot. Now, I'm sure you know this. If you get a great poach and you win the point, your partner's, yeah, you're amazing. But if you halfway do that poach because you're not sure if you should have taken it and you miss the shot, your partner gets pissed, right? They're like, why'd you do that? I was right here. Could have gotten that shot. Why'd you poach my shot? I would argue that as parents, we constantly poach their shots because we see, it's almost like we feel like we're watching an accident in slow motion and we just want to stop it before it even happens. When truthfully, it's not even an accident. It's not even that big of a fall. And we refuse to let our kids be uncomfortable. We refuse to deal with discomfort on any level. So we are going to remove every roadblock for them. And then they get to college. And guess what? We're like, go ahead, go adult. And these girls, they're like, what should I order for lunch today? And you're like, really? We're worrying about what to order for lunch, but choices have been made for them. Things have been fixed for them, and they cannot adult the way that we are treating them right now.
I love that. I want to just repeat that again. Like, choices have been made for them, and decisions have been made for them. So when we set them off, how are we expected for them to do it if they not have that time? Because especially in the teenage years, that's why I feel like it's so important. That's your time to coach. I've been struggling with my son, looking at his schedule for high school for next year, and just, he's, pick what you want for me. I'll just do it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to pick. I will help you talk this through, but you still need to make the final decision. Like, we will talk it through, but I'm not doing that for you. Sorry, it's your turn.
That's fantastic.
Because it's so hard. And though he did have, when I finally realized he had a sample schedule picked out, he had German and Spanish down. I'm like, you don't even have a language requirement. And I don't get any of the other classes. I was shocked, being a former teacher, in how much choice he had in his freshman schedule, of how much that they're changing the things. I've been like so distraught by school system, but I was like, there were 3 periods where he had choice. He could choose electives, which I thought was insane for a freshman. So I was just excited for that. And I don't know, I would love to hear other moms and their schedules and what it's like at their schools too, because I feel like things are starting to change, that we realize college isn't necessarily the path for everyone. Choice is about figuring out what you want, that we're not just going to wait to just do all these things, but start honing in on things that people are interested in and get a chance to say, no, I don't like this now. And I even walked into their automotive room, and it was like being in an actual garage. They had
That's
the
so cool.
and he walked in there and it was like a deer in headlights. I don't want anything to do with this room. I'm like, cool. One thing crossed off your list. No worries. I mean,
Oh
even
my
even
gosh.
the teacher was like, yeah, cool. No worries. But for the kids that wanted
Well,
it,
that's the thing though. Nobody wants to let their kids deal with a consequence. And it's just so funny because let's just say that your child had not walked into that room with the cars and they just said, you know what, I'm just going to put it down. And then they signed up for the class. You're not going to get hurt taking that class. Suppose if you do something, maybe like you could get hurt in an automotive class, but it's something where you signed up for it. You didn't do the research before you took it. You signed up for it. You're going to take it. And if you hate it, then maybe next time when you sign up for classes and you have choices, you will do more research today. And that's the thing about it. It's if our child is hurting themselves, hurting someone else, if they're in physical danger, obviously I absolutely say step in. Or if they're being threatened by other students. But if it's something where they can deal with a natural organic consequence, it's so basic. I talk about this in this a lot when I'm giving talks. So we learn very young not to put our hands on a hot stove because we get burned and we immediately learn that doesn't feel good. That's called a consequence. No, that's not a fun consequence, but we're not going to do that again. And that's the way that our kids learn. And that's also on the opposite side when they experience little wins. So it doesn't have to be a fail, but when they experience little wins, when they make the choice to do something, and when they experience a win, no matter how small it is, those little wins add up. And that is how your kid starts to build confidence. And that is how they start to feel good. But when mom is the one that makes the choice or makes the call or calls the coach and gets them on a team or gets them into a different classroom so they can be with their friends, whatever it is, that is not a win. Then your child is in the class they want and they're with their besties, but nobody's winning there. And the goal is to teach them that feeling that we have trust in them and that they can do it. They can win on their own.
I love that so much, just the way you put that perspective, because you always think of natural consequences and the dangers of it, but like to really turn it and think about you're setting your kids up to experience their own wins.
Oh,
And
definitely.
that's the focus. I just never thought about that perspective change of how to really to say that. So I really love that. So I want people to take that away is let's set our kids up to experience their own wins. And I want to have a conversation with my son about his schedule, but at the same time, these are your final decisions. And I always do that with sports as well. Like you sign up for a season, you're committed, but if you don't want to do after that season, that's fine. But I don't want to do the fighting during the middle of the season when you picked that, because we've been going through that with my daughter and swim. And then, oh, maybe I want to do spring work. No, you're not allowed to sign up for spring right now.
Yeah,
Because
no,
you're
we have the same thing, but you just reminded me. So I did have this one client a couple of years ago, and it's such a great story. She was complaining to me about this math that she had requirement in college, and she really didn't like it at all. She didn't like this class. She wasn't doing well in the class. And we would talk about it a little bit in each session. It wasn't the goal, the focus, but it just bugged her because she was so mad that she had to have this math class. And finally, a couple months go by and she hasn't talked about the math. So I say to her, hey, what's going on with that class? And she says, oh, I didn't tell you. And I said, no. And she said, well, I got myself a tutor. So listen to this. She took the steps, not her mom, not me. We didn't even come up with this plan on together. She got herself a tutor. She started working with this tutor twice a week in the library to help her. And it was a calculus class. And by the end of that term, she actually said to me, you're not going to believe this, Randy, but I really like it because solving these, it's almost like solving a puzzle, like the really long equations. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I hate math. But it was like, you can call that a big win or a little win. That is a win. She got the tutor, right? She got the tutor. She realized this is actually pretty cool. It's like I'm solving this whole thing. And I remember I felt such a win at the other end of that cause. Oh, this is so good. You have to know what a big win this is. And those things, you can't buy that. Mommy can't give that to you. You experience that. And that is what we're looking for. That's the kind of feeling we want. Because when people say, how do I build confidence in my kids? I'm like, well, the first thing you got to do is stop getting in their way.
Oh, I love it so much. And we'll be back right after this. Thank you for joining us today. Do you ever feel like your own dreams are fading on you as you focus and keep everything together for your family? Or been buried under laundry and school runs and endless to-do lists? They're so deep, you don't even know what they are anymore. The Mama Genius Hub is here to help you uncover that part of you again. Maybe you felt that pull to start a passion project, return to a hobby you once loved, or pursue a career that lights you up, but you're so caught in everyone else's needs that you keep slipping through the cracks. In just 15 minutes a day, our mini courses will help you reconnect with those dreams while finding a new rhythm in motherhood's beautiful, messy life. And best of all, you'll be doing it with a community of moms who truly understand the juggle and the joy. The Mama Genius Hub is a community who've been there and are here to support and inspire each other every step of the way. It's time to rediscover your spark, live in your genius, and inspire your kids by showing them how to follow their own passions. Join the Mama Genius Hub today and start creating space for you again without guilt and doing it solo.
Come to www.connectingmamas.com for more details.
And we're back. So it's been so wonderful having them, but we're gonna have to go into our final question, which is, what is a common misconception about motherhood you think holds many moms back from truly stepping into their genius?
This one to me is easy. I think the common misconception is that there's a right way to be a mom, that, that there's a right way to parent, and I'm right and you're wrong. It's not a one size fits all parenting, and all of our families are different. We all have a different set of family values. And so there is no right way to parent. Therefore, once we understand that, we will be okay with going on social media and, for instance, seeing something that you're doing. I'm just going to be happy for you. I'm proud of you and happy for your kids. I'm not going to compare my family and my kids and what they're doing to what you're doing, because we're all going to get there, but we're all going to get there down our own path.
Oh, I'm just taking that in right now because it's so true, especially in that comparison mode. That is just so true. So tell everyone how they can get to know you a little bit better, or where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me. I have a website, randycrawfordcoaching.com, and I'm on Instagram at Randi Crawford Coaching. And I love me some TikTok. So as long as that's around, I'm also at Randi Crawford Coaching on TikTok.
Yeah, we never know. We'll bring you back in just a moment. We'll give some takeaways and bring you right back. Wasn't that amazing? I got 5 great takeaways from you, from Randi. And number 1 is really looking at, sorry, it's one of those funny moments where I had to highlight it and then it's just, but it's really the communication gaps between the mom and the daughter that really brought her into this, and realizing that we need to empower our daughters and make kids more resilient in all of it. Parenting is really about playing smarter, not harder. So it takes us into takeaway number 2, though, is we're really looking at the digital world. We're looking at the fact that we are in the social media world. We can't hide from it anymore. It is where we are at. And we're looking at brains that aren't fully developed going into this. So the issue of, even if you move, that issue might travel with your child. And so it's really coming into that realization that it is a little bit different from where we are. And what our goal is, though, as parents, is to really instill those values inside of them, and really focusing on that comparison idea so that we don't have that moving forward so much. Which leads us to takeaway number 3 as we get into the pickleball method and really looking at down the middle solves the riddle, right? People do not communicate. We're missing the point sometimes when I can think of myself on the pickleball court. Oh, that was yours. Nope, that was yours. And that's the same thing we're doing with our kids. And so when we're so busy and not really listening, that can happen. So it's really focusing on that realization of the communication. But then that takes us to takeaway number 4, with that real active listening. I love this line, is we don't know what they want. And so we're only going to figure that out if we actually listen to them. And their wants might be different than us. Even though we might be able to solve their problem, it might not be what they needed or wanted, or what's going to actually help them move forward, because that takes away to takeaway number 5, which is about the poaching idea in pickleball. But that the true idea, let's focus on this, is we want our kids to experience those little wins, and they can't do it if we poach them from them. If we don't stand out of their way and let them come into themselves and make their own decisions, we're going to be poaching those little wins from them. And that is what we don't want to do. And realizing that when we're doing this, we're doing it whatever works for our kids, and asking and being those detectives into what is going to make them feel that way, and really just letting them have some of those natural consequences. So they start to, with the consequences, they're also going to get those wins. They're going to bring Randi back for her final takeaway. Welcome back, Randi.
You did good. I was wondering how you were going to do the 5 takeaways. And I love that. And I really love how we turned around the poaching from a negative.
Oh, I love that too.
I do too. That sort of just organically came about, but I love that. It doesn't have to be a negative. That's the whole point. None of this has to be a negative. We don't want to control. In pickleball, you can't control the outcome. And the harder you hold on to that paddle, the worse you're going to play. Like, we just have to let go a little bit. Just enjoy it. Take a deep breath, reset, enjoy it, stop controlling, and it's going to be great.
I think my pickleball game is going to be better from this conversation.
You're going to be talking to your partner. Yours, mine, I got, you got.
I am. Well, thank you so much, Randi. It was such a pleasure to have you on, and we're going to have to say goodbye to everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. That was so fun.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.